But of course, what we love about Holmes is that he was flawed,
Right.
and Conan Doyle seemed to go to great lengths to show that it was flawed as a social animal, as it were, in terms of his relations with women and society in general, quite awkward and difficult, and flawed in his drug addiction, his famous 7% solution of cocaine, and so on. And occasionally impatient and irascible, difficult, subject to moods. It's quite clear from the early stories in particular that he's drawing a picture of someone with bipolar disorder, actually, because he does leap from the slough of despond to quite sort of merry and prankstery and not sleeping and that sort of thing. So.
There are those who have hypothesized about a homosexual slant to Holmes. What do you think about that?
You'd think I'd be pleased at the idea of being gay myself, but actually, or indeed Jeremy Brett might have been being gay himself. But I think that confuses it's. I mean, if it's at the deepest level of a friendship, if you like. I mean, clearly, it's the sign of 4, when Mary Marston appears, with whom Watson falls in love and then marries. So straight away, and of course the idea of it being defined by your sexual preference didn't really exist. Although, as we know, Conan Doyle was friends to some extent, certainly a warm acquaintance of Oscar Wilde. And you probably know the story of Stoddart and the Langham Hotel. Do you? Stoddart was the editor of the Lippincott's magazine.
I know. I'd be happy to hear you tell it. If you
want. He was an American publisher, and he had this magazine, Lippincott's, that published short stories and novels. And he was always on the hunt for talent, a bit like a kind of Hollywood producer coming to England to think, who are the good writers here? I got a commission to write a movie. He came over and he invited Kipling and Oscar Wilde and Conan Doyle to dinner. Kipling couldn't make it for some reason. And he got from Oscar Wilde a picture of Dorian Gray. And he got a sign of 4 from Conan Doyle, so it was a pretty good dinner.
Sure.
And Conan Doyle wrote about how he really responded well to Wilde, how intrigued he was by him. And you can look in Sign of 4, actually, and you look at Thaddeus Sholto, and the character there. I think that's the right character, isn't it? The one they go to, who's smoking his hookah, and talks like an aesthete, like a Wildean character, and it's as if Holmes as if Conan Doyle has got that in his mind. But anyway,
well, we all around this table share a love of the Jeremy Brett portrayal, which is why we're here. I guess I might as well just ask you first. Did you know Jeremy Brett at all?
Yes, I got to know him a little. I was at university with his son, David Huggins. Huggins was Jeremy Brett's birth name, as you may know. And his mother was Anna Massey. You probably know, and I don't think I'm giving you any family secrets, that Jeremy was, at the very least, bisexual, probably really just gay. And there's a mention of Noel Coward's diary, because Noel Coward was very close to the Massey family. Yeah. Raymond Massey was they were from a very rich Canadian family, tractors, as you know, Massey Ferguson, and Daniel was a godson of Noel Coward's, and so he knew about Jeremy. And when Jeremy said he was going to marry Anna Massey in Noel Coward's diary, he said, I spoke to him very sternly and said, "You're not going to disappoint and upset her, are you?" And he said, No, I do love her. And I showed this to David Huggins, Jeremy's son. I said, "Do you see that?" He said, "Oh my God," he couldn't believe it. He was in Coward's diary, because Anna and Jeremy brought around this perfectly disgusting baby. And that was David. Anyway, but Hugh Laurie and I did this series called Jeeves and Wooster, based on the... and of course many people see in Jeeves and Wooster a kind of echo of Holmes and Watson. Which of course goes back to Commedia dell'arte and The Servant of Two Masters, and those sorts of relationships go all the way back. But there was the 21st anniversary, I think, of what was known as Masterpiece Theatre, that used to be shown on PBS on Sundays. Alistair Cook used to introduce it back in the day. And Jeeves and Wooster was one of its latest acquisitions. And because it was the 21st anniversary, PBS and Mobil, I think, who were the lead sponsors.
That's right. I remember.
Flew us all out from England, first of all to LA, to Marina del Rey, of all weird places for a big party and celebration, and then to the State Department in Washington. Bizarrely, literally on the eve of the first Gulf War. It was on the night before Saddam Hussein had to get out of Kuwait, or America would take Kuwait back. And Saddam Hussein didn't get out in the first 2 minutes. So it was kind of a weird time to be there.
Yeah.
But I flew with Jeremy, next to Jeremy, on the way back from LA to Washington for this event, and we were chatting away, and he was full of fabulous stories, and I said to him that how much I'd adored Holmes all my life, and how he was the only actor I'd ever seen who seemed to embody every aspect of Holmes, the passion, the neurosis, the drama, the theatricality of Holmes, as well as the melancholy and the other qualities. It just seemed to me absolutely perfect, and I thanked him for that. And then we were talking about other things, and I remembered he was Freddie Eynsford Hill in My Fair Lady as a younger actor. And I said, "Is that you singing that?" And he said, "No." And he said, "It was a matter of great disappointment." He then told me this very funny story, and this is just so English. He said, in my first term at school, he went to Eton, which is the kind of premier private school in England, as I'm sure you know, Boris Johnson and many others. And he said I was a good singer, and I'd been a successful choir boy in my prep school, and so I was made to sing a solo on my second Sunday in Eton Chapel, and he said, "You may not believe it, but I was a very pretty boy." And I said, "Well, of course I believe you, Jeremy. You would have been stunningly cherubic and seraphic and gorgeous." He said, "Well, anyway, I got quite a few letters in my pigeonhole," which is how people communicated at school. He said, and I didn't know what it meant. So my brother had once written to, I think he said, Janet Gaynor or some such film star, and got a photograph back. So I went to Eton High Street and had some photographs of myself and sent them to these. And he then said, sort of archly, "I soon discovered it was more than photographs that they were after." And I didn't inquire any further. But then we landed at Washington, and we went to the State Department, and there was a mixture of people, Colin Powell, all this really weird, sort of lining up to say hello to us, and including Ben Bradley and Sally Quinn of Ben Bradley, the famous editor of the Washington Post, he was there. But Anthony Ackland, who was the British ambassador, was there. We were all meeting, sort of shaking hands with the ambassador, who said, "Oh, it's very good what you're doing. It's very good for the British culture, to be shown on this masterpiece." "Good Lord, Huggins," he said when he saw Jeremy Brett. And he bore him off, and obviously they'd been at school together. He bore him off to chat with him, and as he went, Jeremy turned over and did the sort of international bill sign, i.e. writing on the palm of his hand, as if to say, "He was one of those who wrote to me." I thought that was just so fabulous.
Wow.
But he was very annoyed that Jack Warner insisted that this lyric tenor be used for On the Street
Did he say
Where You
why?
Live. He said, because he said, "I thought my voice was really good enough. I thought I sang it better, but they felt that this was the beautiful lyric tenor song of that strangulated tenor, which I find extremely annoying."
It's one of the worst parts of the movie.
It really is.
Yeah.
So unfair on Paul Jeremy.
That's
but
really unfortunate.
My goodness, the only other role I can remember him playing particularly, and again I spoke to him about that, was Max de Winter in the production of Rebecca, where he was superb again. He was such a good actor. But as you know, and as you can see when watching him go through the canon of the Sherlock Holmes stories, he did become quite ill, and you could hear the wheeze in his voice, and you did wonder about, my God, he's really going for it, because if there's one thing everyone knows about Sherlock Holmes, it was that he was a smoker. This is a 3-pipe problem, and you remember the golden pince nez, is it that story with the smoking all those Egyptian cigarettes? And you could see him smoking and hear the wheeze, and you think, "Oh no, Jeremy, we'll let you off having to smoke in this." But he went for it, and it's a sad thing to watch that. But my goodness, there are moments in there of such splendor, and the physicality of it was.
Especially the early ones, it's so.
I agree.
It's so amazing.
Throwing himself on the floor,
looking
for things.
He really
love
went
that
for
stuff.
It, didn't he?
Well, you may or may not know this, but I think it's in David Stewart Davies wrote a book called Bending the Willow about Jeremy and his time on the series, and I believe it's in that book where he said Jeremy's brother, when he found out that he was cast in the role, was very disappointed because his brother was a Sherlockian, and he said, "You don't even smoke a pipe." So Jeremy had to learn how to properly smoke the pipe so that he could impress his brother enough to accept him as a Sherlock.
If he'd been cast as Jack the Ripper, would his brother say, "But you haven't even killed a single woman in your life"? And does he not know what acting's about?
Presumably. Well, one thing our American listeners might not know, you were involved with a group that petitioned the BAFTAs to award Jeremy Brett posthumously. Did you instigate that project? How did you become involved?
I think it was suggested to me, and I immediately responded to it because I thought, whatever it is that the BAFTAs represent, it's something to do with the depth of excellence and, if you like, Britishness. It is the British Academy of Film and Television Arts. And Jeremy Brett was a representative of that, an ambassador of a particular British way of expressing something eternal in the form of the Sherlock Holmes stories that have penetrated every corner of the world. Yeah. And that needed recognition. I don't think he was recognized in any proper way while he was doing it. He knew that it was successful and that it went on and on for Granada, and they built a Baker Street and everything. But I don't think enough attention was paid to just what a remarkable achievement it was. That over the years he created something permanent and wonderful. That and he had a lot to beat. He had Basil Rathbone and Peter Cushing and all kinds of other people not to beat. He wouldn't have looked at it that way. But that there was a tradition
to bring something
all the way
new.
back to William Gillette. There was a great tradition. Yeah. And he more than met it. And I would people who prefer not to read or madly prefer not to listen to me reading, if they can find their way to see Jeremy Brett, they will see he is worthy of that. And I don't know what the state of the campaign is.
Oh, you don't know?
No.
Okay. I was going to ask you, do you know how many signatures you got, or did it raise any eyebrows?
I should find out for you, shouldn't I?
Because we'd be happy to help continue that endeavor.
I'm not sure what the precedent is. Yeah. It'd be interesting. Maybe usually, like all institutions, BAFTA will be sensitive and most receptive to the idea of an anniversary. Right, so if you could say, do you realize it's now 25 years since he died, or it's now X years since this, or something, that might just trigger them.
Yeah.
So
maybe we'll do our part. Maybe we can reconnect on this as the time comes.
That would be good.
Favorite moments? Anything spring to mind?
I remember there's a moment where he's putting together the chip in the stonework. And it's a later one, in fact. It's the problem of Thor Bridge.
Yeah, right.
Where he's there, and there's something about the quivering of the nostrils that is just, it absolutely epitomizes his Holmes, that moment. And I remember thinking, oh, yes, that's it. That finely tuned nature of it and the closeness of the intellect to the passions. Yeah. I think that's what he understood.
Yeah, right.
And that's a marvelously important thing, because this idea that he was a cold, rational machine, Holmes, is far from the truth, as we know, right. those who love and understand the character, or think we do. And Jeremy so got that. So that was one particularly fine moment. And actually, I love Charles Gray as Mycroft as well. So when they were together, when they're sitting at and they're looking down and they see the retired sergeant of the Marines, the famous thing about children, Sherlock.
Is he,
that moment.
I was going to ask you if you had a favorite Mycroft in the agglomeration of Holmes films over the decades.
Well, I would say it is Charles Gray, actually. And obviously I played him, but it's in a very different world, the Guy Ritchie films, the ones with Robert Downey Jr. And I was just delighted to be asked. And I'm aware that some Sherlockians will look at those and go, that is just not even close what is going on. But it's a different sort of film entertainment. And the great thing about Holmes is that it is resistant to that. We've all seen how many comic books and children's versions, Sherlock as a dog,
fighting Nazis.
But you only have to go back. But my greatest pleasure was being asked by Audible to do the canon as audiobooks, because that was a thrill to go back to the canonical originals and just to read through them. And they asked me to write an essay for each one that I could read out for the beginning. And they've been, for Audible at least, I believe, a great success. So that's nice. And it may have introduced new people to the Conan Doyle, to the original. And I think that's wonderful. But it's fascinating, isn't it, as to the question of why. I think it's the particularity. And there aren't any. How many literary figures, how many invented characters can you draw so quickly? Can you just draw there's the curved pipe? Oh, Sherlock Holmes. It's just straight away the most identifiable.
Right. Iconic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, for once, literally iconic. It is an icon. It's a picture that you can have. There are not many others, are there? Maybe the Chaplain Tramp, you could suggest, the moustache and the bowler hat, you could go, and we need him still. I mean, he's the original superhero to some extent. Certainly the original caped crusader.
Right.
The fact that the cape was made of tweed rather than whatever Superman's is made of.
Right.
And I think also people overlook the what goes into the books. That for the Victorian reading and then the Edwardian and subsequent Georgian, as it were, George V audience, because he was writing through 3 reigns. They'd never heard of the mafia before. They'd never heard of Ku Klux Klan before. They'd never heard of these kind of, unions like or the Mormon Church. He showed whole other worlds to. Yeah. So they all start in the absolute snug, lamplit, fog-bound certainty of Baker Street, which we find so cozy and so pleasing, and we can picture it. We know the VR on the wall in bullet holes and the Persian slipper with the tobacco in it and everything else. But it go out into the world that was the strange tide that was lapping up at the solidity of that Victorian world. Right. And he was writing, you read that and you think, but he's Victorian, but he was writing through the Titanic disaster, through the invention of flight, and telephones and radio, was all going on. And it's as if he was saying, there is a solid pillar of thinking and of behaving that will not be blown down by the winds of change, that will still be there, is reliable. And that's, I think, what we love, because we cling to that thought that all the horrors of the modern world will not erode the certainty and the strength of mind of a reasoning, feeling being who can solve problems, because God knows we've got enough of our own.
We need heroes.
Yeah.
We just covered the Blue Carbuncle on our show, and we were talking afterwards, and I said, the series, the Granada series, Jeremy Brett, Baker Street, everything you just described, the feeling it has for me is it's like coming home at Christmas.
Absolutely. And the Blue Carbuncle is one of the best Christmas stories ever told. He's up there with Christmas Carol, really, isn't it? I was trying to remember who played Henry Baker in that Blue Carbuncle. Oh, he was good, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah. Was it Frank Middlemass? Was it?
Yes, that's who it was.
That's right. He was very good.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, again, it just got all those beats in the story so right. The argument with the market guy, all that. That wonderful trick of his about the way to his heart is not to bribe him or to flatter him, but to appeal to his sporting instinct.
Right.
I saw the pink un poking out of his pocket.
Right, exactly.
And just, I mean, it's so exquisite in its detail, and it's so sad. And of course, it ends with forgiveness. It ends with the Christmas spirit perfectly, doesn't it?
There's some things in there too, and I know you became a member of the Magic Circle.
Yes.
And if you go back and rewatch that, there's a lot of sleight of hand.
Yes, there is.
And there's a piece that they cut out. Jeremy was gonna bring out the carbuncle, and they cut away during the sleight of hand, which I don't understand.
What a shame! He was doing a palm drop or something, a little French drop, as they call it.
Yeah. There's a palm drop when he puts it in the goose.
He loved that, the prestige, though, didn't he? I mean, you get it, of course, in the Bruce Partington plans and things like that. In the revelation of the, Where is that? I'm going mad, Mr. Holmes. Where is it? Oh, never mind. Have some breakfast. Maybe look under the dish. Way there it is. It's just lovely. The reveal.
Way he throws out the tablecloth for the Napoleon.
That's stunning, isn't it? God, you make me want to go back. I'm going to have to get DVDs out now.
That's why we started the whole podcast. We just talk about them.
Yeah.
And we just thought we should just record these because somebody else might care.
Quite right. And when I say DVDs, is it actually now available for downloading or for streaming?
Yeah, surprisingly, it doesn't seem to be downloadable, but it is on Blu-ray, and they're high definition, and they look amazing.
They've been remastered.
Oh, that's good. So they have they?